The sky above the human outpost was filled with silent stars. Cold winds passed over the metal rooftops, and distant lights blinked across the alien desert. The station was quiet, but not asleep. Inside the command tower, the alien woman stood. Still, her skin was pale blue, marked with faint glowing lines. Her name was not spoken in human words, so they called her Lyra. Lyra belonged to a species known as the Volcari. They were logical, advanced, and emotionless. To the Volcari, feelings were seen as distractions, weaknesses that slowed progress and clouded judgment. Lyra had been trained from birth to think clearly, act efficiently, and never form attachments. She was here on a mission. Observe the humans. Report their behavior. Judge if they could be useful allies or dangerous threats. Her eyes followed one man on the screen, the human base commander. He was not strong by her standards. His voice was too soft. His eyes showed too many emotions. His name was Daniel. Lyra didn't understand why she kept watching him longer than needed. She told herself it was analysis, research, routine. But deep inside, something strange moved. The first time they met face to face, Daniel offered his hand. Lyra didn't take it. "I don't need physical greetings," she said. Daniel smiled anyway. "You'll get used to them." She tilted her head. "Your kind touches too much. It is inefficient." Daniel only laughed gently. "Maybe, but sometimes inefficiency is exactly what makes us human." Lyra noted the phrase. She recorded everything he said, his expressions, his posture. But when she returned to her private quarters, she found herself repeating his words aloud, slowly, quietly, like they meant more than just data. The next day, she walked with Daniel during a base inspection. Soldiers passed by. Engineers nodded. Robots whirred as they repaired the outer wall. "Your people laugh a lot," Lyra said. Daniel looked at her, a little surprised. "Is that a bad thing? It serves no purpose." He paused. "Maybe it doesn't, or maybe it does. Laughter helps us deal with pain. Pain is weakness." "No," he said softly. "Pain is proof that we lived." Lyra felt her skin grow warm, a reaction she couldn't explain. Her neural implant sent a warning. Emotional spike detected. She quickly dismissed it, but her fingers twitched slightly at her side. That night, she sat alone and reviewed her recordings. Every time. Daniel smiled. Her heart beat slightly faster. Every time he looked at her, her systems grew quiet. Still, focused. She told herself it was nothing, until the dream came. She had never dreamed before. Volcari were trained to sleep in black, empty rest. But tonight, Lyra saw him. Not in data. Not in reports. In her mind. Daniel stood in the snow. He reached out again, not to shake her hand, but to hold it. And for the first time in her life, she reached back. She woke up suddenly, breath sharp, hands shaking. Her implant glitched for a moment. A red warning blinked. Emotional instability detected. Correction needed. She stared at the screen and didn't press the reset. The next morning, an alarm shook the base. A transport vehicle had flipped on the ice fields outside. One of the human guards was missing. Without being ordered, Lyra followed the signal. She found the guard barely breathing, and Daniel pulling him free from the wreck. The ice cracked. Beneath them. Daniel looked up at her, struggling. "I can't lift him alone." Lyra didn't hesitate. She jumped down, helped carry the man to safety. Once the guard was secured, Daniel looked at her, shivering but smiling. "Thank you," he whispered. Lyra looked away. "I only did what logic demanded." But her heart beat fast again, and this time she didn't stop it. That night, Lyra sat in the observation tower, looking out at the stars. Something had changed. She didn't understand it yet, but she could feel it. She had been sent here to observe a species full of emotions. She was told they were weak, but what if they weren't? What if the weakness ... was never theirs? As she looked down at Daniel's name glowing on the screen, her hand moved to touch the panel softly. She whispered to no one, "Why can't I stop thinking about him?" No system answered, but deep inside, something human was awakening. Lyra sat at her desk, staring at her hands. They had never trembled before. Not during battle, not during harsh training, not even during memory purges. But now, they shook Dot ever since the rescue. Something inside her had changed. Her system was stable. Her mind was clear, but her thoughts were not. They kept drifting. Back to Daniel. She opened her interface screen and requested a diagnostic check. Status: all systems optimal. No malfunction detected, but that couldn't be true. She had stopped dreaming centuries ago. Yet last night, she dreamed again. In the dream, Daniel stood in the human garden. Flowers moved around him. He looked at her, not with curiosity, but with something she had no word for. And then he said, "Why do you keep pretending you're not alive?" She had no answer, even in the dream. Lyra closed the diagnostic and walked to the human research deck. As she stepped in, Daniel was talking to a young technician, laughing softly at something she didn't understand. That laugh again. That sound her people called a flaw. She stayed silent near the door. Daniel turned, surprised. "Lyra, didn't hear you come in." "I did not make a sound," she replied. He smiled. "That's kind of my point." They walked side by side down the corridor. Daniel asked, "You sleep differently than us, right?" Lyra paused. "Yes. We enter recovery states. Dreaming is inefficient." "Huh," Daniel said. "Because last night I dreamed of you." She stopped walking. "Why?" "I don't know. You were standing on a bridge. You said something, but I couldn't hear." "It?" Lyra didn't respond. Her throat felt dry. He chuckled. Strange, right? But she wasn't smiling. Inside her mind, that same image of the bridge burned behind her eyes. How could he dream of what she saw? Later that day, she entered the lab to check sensor systems. Her task was simple routine scans, but something triggered an alert, a low-frequency pulse, hidden beneath a normal transmission. Coming from orbit. She froze. It wasn't from the humans. It wasn't random noise. It was Vocari code. Lyra decoded the signal. Subject 73 showing signs of contamination. Begin correction procedure soon. Her chest tightened. She was Subject 73. For a long time, she stood in silence. The code didn't surprise her. The Vocari always planned for failure, but something about the word contamination made her feel ... violated. Was this what her people called weakness? Feeling betrayal? She didn't return to her quarters. Instead, she walked again toward the command deck. Daniel sat alone, reading from a digital pad. He looked up, surprised to see her at this hour. "Can't sleep?" he asked. Lyra walked closer. "I do not wish to be alone right now." Daniel blinked. She had never said anything like that before. He motioned to the seat next to him. "I was reading about your people," he said. "It says Vocari purge memories that cause emotional reactions." Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, if I told them what I'm feeling, they would erase this entire mission from me, including you." Daniel looked at her. "Do you want that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked out the window. "I used to think humans were weak," she said quietly. Daniel didn't speak. He waited. "But now, I think maybe we're the ones who are afraid." That night, Lyra turned off her neural dampener for the first time in her life. She wanted to feel everything, even if it hurt, even if it broke her. And when she closed her eyes, she dreamed again. Not of war, not of logic, but of Daniel standing beside her, his hand reaching out, not to command, Not to control, but just to stay close. Lyra stood before the communication console, her hand hovering above the transmit button. The Vocari signal still echoed in her mind. Begin correction procedure soon. That meant erasure. That meant losing everything she had seen, felt, and him. But she didn't press the button out instead. She locked the message inside a private data vault, sealed from her own people. She knew what she had done. And she knew what would come if they found out. Later, in the cafeteria, humans laughed and talked loudly over steaming plates. Lyra sat alone, quietly watching them. She studied their faces, their movements, their voices full of things her people called disorder. But now, disorder felt alive. Daniel walked in, smiling like usual. He held 2 cups of warm brew and walked straight to her. Try this, he said. She hesitated. What is it? Coffee, he said. It helps humans survive early mornings and late missions. Lyra took the cup. It smelled strong, bitter, unfamiliar. She sipped. Her face twitched. Daniel laughed. It's terrible the first time. Lyra looked at the cup. Then why drink it? Because it reminds us we're still here. She didn't understand, but smiled anyway. It felt strange. And good. Later, she entered her room and turned on the mirror. She stared at her own reflection. Pale blue skin. No emotion in her face. But her eyes, they were different now. They looked softer. She accessed her personal log and recorded her thoughts. I believe I'm compromised, but I no longer care. The longer I stay near him, the more I feel. And for the first time, I don't want to be fixed. The next day, she joined Daniel during an external patrol. Snow swept across the landscape. The wind howled between the rocks. He walked beside her, crunching through the frost. So, he said casually, I've been reading your reports. She looked sideways at him. Those are classified. I hacked into them, he said with a grin. She narrowed her eyes. That is illegal, Daniel laughed. I know. But I had to see what you really thought. Lyra sighed. And you wrote, the subject shows emotional instability, illogical patterns growing, human influence suspected. She blinked. That is ... accurate. Do you really believe that? He asked. Gently. Lyra looked up at the gray sky. I did. Not anymore. They stopped at the edge of the canyon. Below them, the frozen river glittered like glass. Daniel looked serious now. Why do your people fear emotion so much? Lyra didn't answer right away. Then she said, because emotions lead to attachment, and attachment leads to pain. Vocari. History is full of loss, so we remove the cause. Daniel turned to her. But pain isn't the enemy. She looked at him. He added, it's what makes us fight harder, love deeper, and survive longer. Without it, we just exist. Not live. Lyra lowered her head. Her voice shook slightly. What if I don't want to go back? That evening, alarms rang out across the base. One of the external scanners detected a cloaked Vocari probe near orbit. Daniel rushed to the command deck. Lyra was already there. They found me, she whispered. Daniel looked at her. What do they want? They want to fix me. Daniel stepped closer. What do you want? Lyra's hands tightened into fists. I want to stay. Outside, the stars blinked in silence. But something had changed. The Vocari would not allow her to remain broken. They would come soon. To erase her. To erase everything. She returned to her quarters and stood in front of her mirror again. This time her eyes were wet. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She touched it with wonder, like it was the rarest thing in the galaxy. Asterisk. The probe was gone, burned in the upper atmosphere. But Lyra knew that wouldn't stop them. The Vocari never gave up on corrections. They would send another, then a ship, then more. Her time was running out. Still, she didn't ask to leave. She didn't send a message home. Instead, she walked through the base halls with one thought echoing in her mind. What happens when logic is no longer enough? The answer came that night. A tremor shook the base. The ground cracked beneath the structure. Lights blinked. Sirens wailed. Power failed in the west wing. Daniel was in that wing. Lyra ran. Her movements were sharp, trained, but something inside her felt wild, chaotic. Not from fear of failure, from fear of losing him. She found him trapped behind a sealed door, the emergency lights flickering red across his face. He was calm, but pale, bleeding from his forehead. "Lyra," he said through the glass, "there's no oxygen feed on my side." She didn't speak, didn't breathe. Her fingers moved fast, trying to override the lock. "Stop," he said gently. "You don't have much time. Go back." Lyra's voice broke. "No." He blinked. "Lyra." "I said no," she growled. She pulled off the panel and dug into the wires. Electricity sparking around her hands. Pain hit her. She didn't stop. Finally, the door hissed open. Smoke spilled out. Lyra rushed in, grabbed his arm, and dragged him out before the chamber collapsed behind them in the hallway. Daniel coughed hard, gripping her shoulder. "You shouldn't have risked yourself," he said between breaths. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide, voice trembling. "I couldn't leave you." Later, in the med bay, Daniel lay unconscious, healing slowly. Lyra sat beside him, her fingers trembling. A nurse said he would recover, but that wasn't what hurt Dot. It was the realization. She had no logic left to protect her Dot, not from the fear, not from the pain, not from him. She activated her private log. "He could have died. My mind tells me I should not care. But I do. Deeply. I don't understand what this feeling is, but it breaks every command I was given." She paused. "Is this love?" Her voice shook. "Is this what they warned me about?" That night she didn't sleep. She sat outside, under the stars, wind in her hair, heart louder than her thoughts. And then a voice broke the silence. "Daniel." He stood behind her, wrapped in a thermal blanket, still weak. "Couldn't sleep either?" She turned, surprised. "You should be resting." He smiled. "Hard to rest when you nearly died. And someone saves your life." They sat together in silence. Then he said, "You know, my people used to believe love was a weakness too." She looked at him, curious. He continued, "It makes you vulnerable, exposed. But you know what else it does?" She waited. "It gives you something worth fighting for." Lyra closed her eyes. For a long time she said nothing. Then, "I think I'm broken." Daniel shook his head. "No, Lyra. I think you're finally whole." The wind grew quiet. For the first time, she reached for his hand without hesitation, and he didn't let go. Lyra stood before the mirror again. But this time, she did not see a Volcari, not the cold, perfect being she had been trained to be. She saw someone else, someone changing, someone, human, her skin had not changed. Her voice still held the sharpness of command, but her heart, whatever part of her that was, felt warm, alive, and afraid, because now she had something to lose. The next day, a transmission reached the outer edge of Earth's communication net, encrypted. Volcari military grade. Only she could understand it. Final warning. You have 72 hours to return for reconditioning. If refusal continues, your neural core will be erased remotely. No exceptions. She stared at the message in silence. Erase her mind? Erase him? She clenched her fists. They weren't giving her a choice, so she would make her own in the human command room. She found Daniel working. He turned, smiled. "You're early." She didn't return the smile. "I need to speak with you. Alone." He followed her to the observation deck, where stars stretched endlessly outside the glass. "I got a message," she said. "From them?" She nodded. "They want me back. If I don't go, they'll erase everything. My memory, myself." Daniel went quiet. Then, "What are you going to do?" Her voice cracked. "I don't know." He looked at her. "Yes, you do." Lyra turned to him, pain in her eyes. "I wasn't made to feel. Every day with you, it hurts. But I don't want it to stop." Daniel stepped closer. "I'd rather lose the stars than lose you." She took a shaky breath. "If I stay, they'll come. Let them." That night, she opened a private channel to the Volcari ship orbiting in stealth dot. Her voice was calm, but her heart thundered. "This is Subject 73. I am not returning. I will not be reconditioned." The reply was instant. "You are compromised." "I'm free," she answered. "This bond with the human is dangerous." She smiled bitterly. "It's the only thing that's ever made me alive." The signal cut dot. She had just declared war. The next day, a strange silence fell over the base. Lyra walked the halls like a soldier awaiting battle. She passed familiar faces. Humans who once seemed weak, but now felt like family. They had shared meals, laughed around her, trusted her, and she would not let them suffer for her. Decision dot. So she made another. She walked to the shuttle bay and keyed in launch. Protocols dot. You leave, alone, before the Volcari arrived. But as the engines warmed, Daniel appeared. "No," he said, stepping in front of the shuttle door. "You're not going anywhere." Lyra didn't argue. "I have to go. If I stay, Earth becomes a target." Daniel shook his head. "We've faced worse. We survived wars. We've fought gods. We'll fight your people too." She touched his chest. "You don't understand them. They erase problems. They don't fight. They delete." He took her hand in his. "Then let them try." That night, Lyra didn't dream. She stayed awake beside him, listening to his heart. One steady beat at a time dot. The warning came just before dawn. A ripple in the sky. A Volcari warship is sending in silence cloaked, massive, and empty of mercy. Alarms. Blared dot. Soldiers scrambled dot. Lyra stood at the center of it, all eyes hard, voice steady. "No one dies for me." Daniel grabbed her arm. "You said emotions were weakness, but they made you stand here, right now, stronger than ever." Lyra met his gaze. "Then let them see what weakness can do." Asterisk. The sky turned dark before the Volcari warship fully appeared. It hovered above Earth's base like a silent judgment, its massive shadow swallowing the stars. No message, no warning, just presence. The humans were ready, shields active, weapons locked, but the fear in the air was real. They had never faced a Volcari ship before. Lyra stood on the command deck, watching the slow descent. Daniel stood beside her. "You don't have to face them alone," he said. She looked at him. "I do. But not because I'm afraid. Because I'm done running." She opened a secure frequency. "This is Lyra of the Volcari. I have made my choice. I am not broken. I am complete. And I will not return." Silence. Then, "Your bond with the human will be erased. You have 3 minutes." Daniel leaned forward. "That's a threat." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "No, that's who they've always been." She turned to him. "You still have time to leave." Daniel shook his head. "I'd rather die beside someone real than live with the perfect lie." The sky rippled again. A beam of light shot down from the ship wide, and humming with energy. It wasn't a weapon. It was a memory eraser. Targeted. At her. Lyra took a breath and walked outside. The light followed her. She stepped into the cold, looked up at her old people, and whispered, "You taught me to be empty, but they taught me to feel. And that's why I win." Her fingers moved fast. She activated a signal dampener she had built from Vocari, tech and human parts. The beam stutered dot flickered dot, then dash died dot silence dot for a moment. Nothing happened. Then the ship vanished dot, not in flames, not in violence. Just gone. A retreat. A silent surrender. The humans cheered. But Lyra didn't move. She stood still, letting the cold wind wrap around her, letting the emotions rise without fear. Daniel walked to her, smiling. They gave up. She turned to him, eyes full of something bright. No, they saw something they couldn't understand. He raised an eyebrow. And what was that? She touched her chest, where her heart now felt louder than any machine. A Vocari who chose to stay. Weeks passed. Lyra remained on Earth. Her people never returned. She became an advisor, a protector, a friend. But most of all, she became something no one expected, human in spirit. She didn't erase her past. She built from it. Daniel. And Lyra walked the outer perimeter one evening. Sunset turned the sky orange and gold. He nudged her lightly. Still think emotions are weakness? She smiled. I think they are power we're afraid to name. He laughed. And do you regret staying? She looked at him, touched his hand, held it like it was the most sacred truth she'd ever known. No. She whispered. Staying is the first real choice I've ever made. That night, she slept without dreams, not because they were gone, but because she no longer needed them to feel alive.